Welcome back to the Budget Archive. My name is Mitch, and thank you to TCG Architect for sponsoring this video. TCG Architect is a modern deck builder designed by players for players. The devs are constantly updating the site and are open to all feedback or ideas you may have. So make sure to go in the description below and check them out. So for today's video, we decided it'd be great to show you exactly how I go about designing my own budget decks, as well as give you some ideas on how to build your own. So there are two ways you can go about building a budget deck. First one is where you effectively take a deck that you want to build, a champion, an idea, a way of playing, add a whole bunch of cards to a single deck list, and slowly over time, trim it down until you get to a deck that you think might work. Go out, test it, play with it, come back, change some cards around based on how you found playing with it, and then repeat this process over and over. To be fair, when a deck's built like this, it's never really done. You're always going to make changes. You're always going to find ways that improve the deck or make it more consistent to how you like to play. This is a very lengthy process, definitely not something that can be done in one video. So I'm going to be going through the second way, which is effectively where you take a proven competitive list that is already done well in other competitions, remove all the expensive cards that either you can't afford or you don't want to put the money into buying yet until you know that you like the way the deck plays, and then replace them with pieces that help continue to progress what the deck wants to do, as well as to add some consistency to the list, seeing as you're not going to have those real expensive consistency builders. I've had a lot of requests for a budget Ensoul Lorraine list, and I figured this is the perfect opportunity to give you guys that. Now, I haven't done any prep for this. All I've done is look at some of the pricing of the cards to make sure that I'm removing the correct cards. So this deck won't be the most refined version possible, but I look forward to you going and playing with this deck, giving me some feedback and letting me know how it went for you. So first things first, we have this fairly standard competitive Ensoul list. Most of this is what you're going to be seeing in most high competitive fire decks, being the liminal guides, dungeon guides, fluffies, Cheshires and sideboards. Sometimes it's a main board, just depends on the build. This one's a bit more of an aggro, go to level 3, draw a ton of cards, play Ensoul and kill them fast. However, we're going to be effectively taking this back to the core of the budget cards and then just adding onto stuff in order to fit the budget. So look at the material deck first. Most material cards within Lorraine are pretty budget orientated, except of course for Looking Glass. Looking Glass is just so expensive currently, and even with the reprint coming in an RDO, it's just not going to be viable for any budget list. If you do happen to have a Looking Glass, definitely recommend keeping this in. It is a great card in order to not only be able to bring out your swords, but also to play Unmake Duality in the main board, giving you that draw too. So for this, we are just going to remove it from the list, and of course, no Looking Glass, no distortion weapons. So we're going to remove the inert sword and the power sword. Photo Rune Blade, that can stay in. Crux Sword, it's a good card to have. It is probably your main way of winning the deck in a budget version like this. So we will go and add some stuff in. First, we're just going to go through and remove everything that's not going to be in the budget version. Now, Dungeon Guide. It's getting reprinted in the Mordred Recollection deck. I do think it's going to be a $3, $4, maybe $5 card. Just because the Recollection deck, I believe, is about $40 US. Correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't exactly looked into the pricing of it yet. But with it being a fairly cheaper product, giving you the 4 dungeon guides as well as everything else in the deck, I don't see Dungeon Guide keeping its high $15 price tag currently. However, at the moment, we are 2 months away from that, so we are going to stick to the current pricing, which I believe is about $14 to $15, depending on the version. So we are going to have to remove those from this deck. Fluffy Shopper Keep. Now these are sitting between $6 and $8 currently. It's one of those cards that in Fire and Soul, it is a great card to have, not only giving you the Interceptor, but allowing you to get rid of 2 swords early into banishment to buff up Crux Knight once it comes out, seeing as it gets +1 for each Regalia weapon in the banishment. So for the version, I've kind of had a quick look at what cards could possibly stay in. We definitely can't keep 4 in. That's definitely way too much. However, I think keeping 2 in the main board is probably going to be okay for our budget, and we can revisit that later on if the budget ends up being too expensive. Liminal Guide, This is pretty much the whole budget there in one copy. We can't keep those, even though they are great. Undying Dreams. There's no point in keeping Undying Dreams in here if you do not have the liminal guides. The main target for this is liminal guide, so I just recommend cutting them, and we'll add some more floating memory in later. Unmake Duality. Same again. No point in having it if we don't have a Divine Relic. Off it goes. Regal. These are about $15 each at the moment, I believe. So definitely not within our budget of $50. Crowd Shocks. Great card. Cremation Ritual. Great card. Flame Sweep. Actually a very great card at the moment. There is a bit of allies running around, so this is a good thing to be able to have if you got a level 2 Lorraine, and be able to completely wipe their board during a whole bunch of cards and just change the momentum of the game in your favor. Hasty Messenger, a great cycler. Reduced Ash, there is a lot of Regalia in the meta currently, which you kind of want to be able to get rid of, so I would recommend keeping this 3. You could look at going 4 main board, but I think 3 is a good point to have. Rending Flames, only a 3 of. This is one of those ones where I could see us possibly going up to 4 of them, but we'll have a look at that later on. 3 of Hearts, another card that is a bit pricey. I believe it's sitting about $5 at the moment. Is that in the budget? Possibly. It's another one of those cards where I think we'll go down to 3 at this point. I'll see if it does stay in the deck. I hope it does. But we should be okay, I believe, with everything else being so cheap in the deck. Barak. One of the main things that Lorraine hates at the moment is Crystallized Destiny. And by allowing you to play this out and then go for your massive attack, it means if they play that Crystallize, it's going to do absolutely nothing. So this is a great card to have in the meta at the moment. I actually will, just right now, go up to 2 in the deck, just because with it being a budget deck, you're slightly slower, and you don't quite have the draw power or consistency to enable you to get through being stopped. So it is a good card to have in there in order to give you that slight advantage into some of the higher meta decks. Ghost of Pendragon, yeah, there's no way. I'd love to have this in this deck. If you have Ghost of Pendragons, put them in, there's no reason not to. But at the moment, it is just not viable. I believe it's still sitting about a $60 card at this point. Spirit Blade and Soul. This is the namesake of the deck. This is what you want. We're going to keep 4 in here. I think it's sitting about $5 at the moment, so there's no point in cutting it. It is going to take a big chunk out of the deck, but when it's your main game plan, there's not much else you can do. In the sideboard, Crystallized Destiny. This is again sitting about $15 at the moment, so we just can't viably keep it. Topsy Decree. Another card that's up to $35, $40 I believe at the moment. It has to go. Cheshire's, another really expensive card. See ya. Regals, 2 more gone. Flame Sweep. We're going to cut this right now from here, just to add room in the sideboard, and we're going to go up 4 main board. I just think it's so good into a lot of the meta at the moment. Home by Fire, we'll leave that there for now, and Spirit Blade Ascension, another good option to have. That will most likely end up going in the main board, but we'll have a look at that soon. And we're back. For you it's only been a few seconds, but for me it's been over a week. I have family here I haven't seen in over a year, so I was spending some time with them. And then I had a work event where I was effectively working 12, 13-hour days. And by the time I got home, it was too late and I was too tired in order to do any editing or recording. So I just decided to leave it for a little bit. And then on Monday, I managed to go and injure my hip at basketball. So I haven't been able to sit up or do anything for the last couple of days. I'm now getting to the point where I'm okay, but I still am a little bit tender. So I may need a cut now and then just to go for a bit of walk and then come back. So we're going to continue on where we left off, which was where we're effectively going to go through and add cards to this list now that we think may help it. And then we'll go back and effectively cut things again to trim it down to that 60 card total. So now I've gone through and added a whole bunch of cards to the list. I was going to show you exactly what I was adding and why. However, that ended up being about an hour of recording and it was just a lot of me rambling about different things that didn't really matter, effectively telling you why I wasn't adding certain stuff to the list. So I'll effectively just go through now and show you what I have added to the list and why. So we've got 3 copies of Blazing Throw. This effectively is in here because you're running a lot of swords, like the Ornamental, the Sword of Seeking, the Drawn Blade and such. And what this does is effectively gives you the chance to add a whole lot of extra aggression towards your opponent, putting them in a situation where you're forcing them to decide between defending themselves or trying to kill you faster. And in a lot of situations, you're probably going to be the one that's faster towards killing, as long as they aren't playing a super aggro Finalizing or something along those lines. We've also got 4 copies of Clumsy in here at the moment. We may go down this just because it does do damage to yourself, but it replaces itself, gives you a body, and is a good target for the cremation rituals. We've also got 2 copies of Devastating Blow. Because you are technically a level 3 deck trying to go to level 3 and do a whole bunch of damage, this is a good thing to have, being a 7 attack that can't be retaliated. This gives you the chance to actually attack into things like Seiryu, Genbu, forcing your opponent to have answers for it. Otherwise, they're just going to end up losing their unit, because often when you go to level 3 Crux Knight, you're going to have 4, maybe 5 swords in your banishment already, making the Devastating Blow a 11-12 damage attack, and if you add a sword on top of that, it's going to be killing most of those units. We also have Tyrannical Degeneration. This is another chance to have a Devastating Blow in the deck as well. I'm still a little bit uncertain about this just because it is a 7 cost with Exalted, so you have to be level 3 to play it to begin with, whereas Devastating Blow you can just pay 3 to attack for 3 early on if required. And it has Kindle 7, so if your opponent gets a Nullifying Lantern or something along those lines out that you can't destroy with Reduced Ash yet for some reason, then it's just going to turn this off and it's going to end up being a dead card in your hand. And now I'm speaking through you with it, I'm probably just going to cut that now. There are too many situations where it's too bad of a card and it's not going to give you the advantage that you require. So in that situation, you probably want to make the deck a lot more consistent by just getting rid of it. We've also got, of course, the 3 of Hearts. I had a look at the budget and I think we're going to go to 2 of this at the moment. If we finish up the deck and we do have room, we'll either go up another 3 of Hearts or up another Fluffy, but that'll just come down to the budget at the end. And then if we continue down, we've got Immolation Trap. At the moment, this is main board. I probably put this sideboard just because it's one of those ones that's really good at things like Seiryu and Genbu. However, into a lot of other decks, it's not going to do a lot. So if we look over at the sideboard here, you've got the 3 Resolutes. So I'd probably put a couple of these possibly main board, but also a lot of situations where it's not that good as well. Spelled Scepter, of course, you don't want your Ensoul getting banished. Oh, sorry, negated. So that is a good thing to have. Fertile Vessel is a lot of Luxem and likes running around at the moment. So this just holds them up and stops them from being able to win the game. Home by Fire. I wouldn't put this sideboard. I think I will remove this from the sideboard and then remove the Immolation Traps. I'm going to go down here and add Immolation Trap. Here we go. We're going to add them to sideboard. And actually, Hone, I do think works really well alongside Rending Flames. Oh, it helps if I spell things correctly, doesn't it? Come on, load. There we go. I'm going to add 2 of them main board. So, Home by Fire, effectively, where am I? Here we are. Home by Fire, alongside Rending Flames, allows you to do 10 to 14 damage, depending on the sword you've got and everything. If you do have Lorraine Crux Knight, you are doing 20 plus damage a lot of the time in attacks. So, it is a good thing to have in a list like this. It's generally seen more in an aggro fire Lorraine list, which is what this is slowly becoming. But I want to make this a level 3 possibility with Ensoul, while also having that aggro aspect possibility in order to make your opponents actually have to think before they do anything against you. So we've also got Flamer and Swordsman's in here. 4 copies currently. I think I might drop this down to 3. It is a 2-2 for 3, not a great stat line, but it's got Floating Memory. So it effectively forces your opponent to the side. Do they want to give you that Floating Memory now, or do they want to have to take 4 to 6 damage from this thing before they are forced to remove it, still giving you that Floating Memory? If we look down, Increasing Dangers currently, this is one of those cards where it is a good idea early on in the game, but after turn 1, it is a horrible card to have, especially now where you got the rule change, where people have a starting hand to begin with. So a lot of the times your opponent's looking at their hand, they haven't got a lot. You play this, they draw a card into memory, they're then able to have a lot more information available to them to decide if they want to counter something that you do on that turn, or if they want to just let everything roll through and then leave that card in their memory. Crossroads Spectre. This is another one of those cards that's very new to the game. I haven't seen a lot of lists running it, but I think it's a fun little thing to have. It has on champion hit, the hit opponent banishes a card from the Meteor deck. So not only are you disrupting your opponent's plan a lot of the time, because by the time you get this out, they're only going to have a few cards left, and most likely it's a certain card that they're trying to just wait and hold off on playing yet, because it's going to have impact in the late game. Now, there is always the chance that a lot of their Regalia are just going to be dead in your matchup, so it could just be a card that's not worthwhile them keeping anyway, but it does put another Regalia into the banishment in order for its second effect, being the on death. If there are 7 or more Regalia cards among all banishments, return it to the field with a buff counter on it, it becomes ephemeral. So not only is it a 3/3 that forces your opponent to banish something from the material deck every time it hits them, but also when it dies, it comes back as a 4/4 that still has that same effect. We're also running Spirit Blade Fusion because it has, if your champion is dealt attack damage this turn, costs 2 less, so it becomes a free card to play, and until end of turn, target sword weapon gets +3, and on champion hit, draw a card. So a lot of the time, when you're playing Spirit Blade and Soul, all your swords come out, they can attack themselves. So when you've got something like Rune Blade here, which has on attack, you may sacrifice another sword Regalia. If you do, wake up the attacker. This itself will wake itself up because it is the attacker. Now, if you do combo this with Lorraine Crux Knight and Majestic Spirit's Crest here, you can often end up in a situation that if you paid the 2 cost for the Spirit Blade Infusion, you get the draw off this, the draw off the Majestic Spirit's Crest, at the same time as dealing often 10 plus damage. So a lot of situations where this is active, you're probably going to be killing your opponent anyway, because with the Votive Rune Blade, you're going to be dealing not only the 4 damage with the blade from the buff from Infusion, but you're going to be adding another probably 3-4 damage from Lorraine Crux Knight in these situations, drawing 2 cards twice, drawing 4, and then the last attack you'll also be waking Lorraine back up, still having Majestic Spirit's Crest attack active, and then attacking, drawing a 5th card with one of your other swords that are on the field, dealing a whole bunch of damage, drawing a whole bunch of cards, and just having your hand back to full influence again, which can be very powerful into a lot of situations. So after looking at it a little bit, I've decided that we're going to get rid of Increasing Danger out of the list. I just feel like it's a little bit too dangerous for the list, gives your opponent too much advantage, especially when you're playing a budget version of the list against the competitive version. It gives them too much card advantage, resulting in you often being on the back foot in these situations. If you were playing a very competitive list, you probably wouldn't have room for it anyway, but it would possibly be an option of that. And finally, we have the deck list that I've come up with. Is this the best deck you can build? Probably not. There are a few cards in here that I'd love to test out and possibly make changes to depending on the situations you run into and whether they actually do their job as required. As with all these budget decks, I generally go away and I'll test it for 3-4 weeks until I'm happy with the deck, and then I'll go back and make changes, retest it, until I've finally got a deck that I'm actually happy to release. Of course, with this, we've kind of just gone through step by step and built it together. So this isn't refined, this isn't been tested, this is the raw copy of the deck. Let me know down below if you would like me to go ahead and make those changes and test it out, and then come back and do another video based where I show exactly what I've done to the deck and exactly what I would continue to do moving forward. Of course, in terms of upgrades, we would be looking at effectively the starting list. This is a tried and true list. This is a Ensoul list. So if you're going to do any changes to it, I recommend just trying to add in the things that were in the original list and then take out the things we've added in just to make the room for it. Is this the cheapest list we've ever made? No. Comes in at $60.48 total for the entire list. Now, TCG Architect has a cool little feature where if you scroll up a little bit, it gives you the estimated low price of $87.05. The thing to note with this is that that is the lowest price available without added shipping. So effectively, if you go through all of the pricing on TCG, you'll notice a lot of prices I use have plus so-and-so shipping. The thing is that I try and choose the options that have multiple cards from the same vendor. So often when you add all those cards into the cart, it gets above their $5 restriction, which is where free shipping comes into effect. So you're often able to get free shipping on a lot of the cards I do. Of course, TCG Architect can't guarantee that when you're using the buy on TCG option through their site. So it automatically selects the cheapest option without shipping added onto it, just to keep the overall cart price cheaper than what it otherwise would be. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below any other videos you'd like to see from me. and any other deck list ideas you may have. Until next time, stay safe.